Hi guys, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. So it's already that time of the month again. Oh, fuck, why do I always say that? You know what I mean. It is my favorites of the month and this is favorite horrors. So if you like these chatty videos, sit down, grab a snack and let's get straight into it. Firstly, I want to start by saying those people who've been asking me about my Patreon and how last month turned out, I had an overwhelming response yes to the Patreon. So I'm gonna actually get to that, but I'll be revealing that in a future video quite soon. So just stick around and wait out for that video and then you'll know that it's all good to go. So as always, I've got my laptop here and we're going to start with my film diary of the month. And as everyone knows, this is on letterbox.com. My name is Spooky Astronaut. Look me up and I'll follow you guys back. And let's start at the start of the month. This month I watched Whole, which may or may not be part of a future Real Faces of Horror. I don't really want to give it away, but it's a documentary about people who want to be amputated. Moving on. I watched Found, which actually caused a little bit of controversy, I like to say, probably between me and myself, but also I had a huge Twitter debate about this and the whole racism issue inside this movie. I will have a review out about it though. I then watched Perfect Blue, which is an anime, very strange, kind of thriller-ish. People call it the Black Swan of anime, so definitely check that if you're into that. I'm just gonna warn you guys, this month I did watch a lot of movies with Dean and we watched a lot of comedies, and he likes to get on a roll where he likes to watch the first one and then the sequel. So we watched Zoolander, it was alright. We watched Big, which I wasn't a fan of. I watched The Woman. I'd never seen this movie and people have always told me to watch it, especially because it's so disturbing. I wasn't a fan of this one. It really creeped me out. It was just so brutal and so violent against just women for no apparent reason. And it didn't really explain itself and I was not a fan of that one, I have to tell you. I watched a Louis documentary on A Different Brain, which is a recommendation from one of you guys. I watched Before I Wake and I want to tell you guys, the review is coming on that. Good film, great film. Check it out and then maybe when my review comes out, you can watch that and see if you thought anything like I did because I really like that movie. I watched Unbreakable, which was, I guess it's a classic. I watched The Conjuring 2, which you guys have seen my review for that. I watched The Silence of the Lambs, and let me tell you, rediscovering classic movies that I had thought I knew what the movie was about, but I must have watched it 10 years ago when I was 16, 15. This movie is bomb, and obviously all of you guys have seen The Silence of the Lambs, I hope, but you can't fault it, so I give it 5 out of 5 because it is the perfect movie. I then watched American Psycho thinking that I could cash in on this whole classic thriller horrors and see if I could just pick out some different aspects of it watching it 10 years on. American Psycho isn't such a great movie. I know that's really weird to say, but it just wasn't put together the way I thought, but it does bring up some really good conversations about the end and what it's actually meant to mean, and I did a lot of research on that and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But I think I might even read the book because I do think it has a lot to offer, but that movie wasn't as good as I remembered. I then watched Lord of Tears, which was a recommendation from one of you guys. It is an indie flick. Check it out if you're into indie flicks. I wasn't a huge fan. It went for a bit too long. I then watched The Boy, and spoiler alert guys, I totally figured out the end of this film at the very start, and I tell you why. Because at the start when you see the door to the attic, what does it remind me of? The episode of the guy that lives in the attic in my Real Faces of Horror, and then also mixed with the puppet. It just made sense to me straight off the bat, so I was kind of disappointed that I figured it out, but I still thought it was pretty cool. I then watched Men in Black. I also watched Men in Black 2. I did a little, you guys can check this out probably soon, but I've done a video on Rob Zombie that will be up on the alternate channel that I work on. I'll link that, or if you guys follow me on Facebook or Twitter, I'm sure I'll put it out there when they make it live. So I was doing a little bit of research and just making sure I knew my shit before I said stuff. So I watched The House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. I then watched Blue Steel, which is just an old school Jamie Lee Curtis thriller, which it was alright. I watched Spiral, which was this very strange movie about a kid who was a serial killer and a painter. I don't know about that one. I then watched The Lovely Bones, which I had seen before, and I'm a big fan of that movie, very sad. We watched The Rover, which is an Australian film with Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson. It was very strange. And then I watched The Light Before Her Eyes, which is got Rachel Evan Wood in it, who I'm a huge fan of. It's kind of like very Lifetime movie, but I thought it was alright. It's a little bit different. It has a very brutal scene at the start, which I was not expecting. I then watched Internet Famous. And let me tell you, that was an awful movie, and the only reason I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm a huge fan of YouTube, obviously. I'm a huge Shane Dawson fan, so that's why I watched it, because I actually really love Shane Dawson, and that's like shameless, but I really do. I just love him as a person, and I always have, and that is a really bad movie. I'm sorry, Shane, that movie was awful. Anyway, so that's the movies I was watching this month. I'd like to say definitely my favorite would have been Silence of the Lambs and Before I Wake, and then with documentaries, the Louis A Different Brain is what I really liked. For television this month, I watched Outcast, which I'm really liking at the moment. I don't know if you guys have checked it out. It's about a guy, it's actually kind of hard to explain, but it's pretty much about a guy who has had a dark past, and he is experiencing other people go through the same thing in his town, and he's an outcast. But it's directed really well, and it's not so over the top and cheesy. I would say it's much like Supernatural in the way they do the special effects, but it's not so full on. The acting's great. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend just checking out the first episode and see what you think. Also, I have been watching Orange is the New Black because I am a lover of Orange is the New Black. I can't say enough good things about that show. I love a show that has a really complicated female character, and especially in these shows like Orange is the New Black that has hundreds of them, and I just can't get enough of that show. I love it so much, and I'm so glad a whole season's here, but I'm really worried that I'm gonna binge it all and then I'll have to wait a year again, but that's how it goes, right? I don't really have an Instagram or a book this month, but what I do have is my favorite YouTuber, and this goes to my friend, someone who's actually been supporting me from the start, and I knew he had a YouTube channel. I'm gonna be really 100% honest with you. I knew he had a YouTube channel, and I used to check on it, but he was always posting stuff that was about rides and theme parks and attractions in America, and it always made me really jealous, and I hate watching those kind of things because I'm never gonna get to do that here. It's a bit much as well because I can't really relate, but checking back, he started doing reviews, and I'm talking about Z Chris, and his reviews are amazing, and this is someone who has been supporting me from the start. I'm really happy to see someone else come so far, and it's really nice to see someone else grow at the same time as me, if that makes sense. I love everything he does. He's so soft-spoken. He also has a really good knowledge of film, and he knows some really cool facts about horror movies that you may not know, and I found that really interesting. So definitely check him out. Tell him I sent you. I love him. He's really great at what he does. On to the next category. I'm going to talk about podcasts now, and my favorite podcast this month, hands down, isn't so much horror related, but definitely something that I think you guys will find interesting. It's called Invisibilia, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this before. It's a pretty well-known podcast, but pretty much I think they describe themselves as they talk about all the invisible aspects of life and just categories to do with that. Every single episode is about a different thing. I actually listened to this whole series, even they have season 2 out now. I listened to it backwards, from season 1 back to 1, and I listened to the first one the other day, which is actually about thoughts, and it is the most heart-wrenching, amazing story. Probably one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard, hands down. I definitely recommend it. If you want to check out at least one of them, check out Thoughts by Invisibilia. That episode, I think it is the first episode, it is amazing. Probably the best, well, definitely the best podcast episode I've ever listened to of anything, and I really recommend you guys checking it out. Please let me know down in the comments if you have heard this and you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it was seriously life-changing for me. Definitely check that out. And my random category this month is brought to you by Supertanker BTG, and they recommended doing my favorite jump scare. My favorite jump scare isn't really like a jump out scare, but it's definitely a jump scare. My favorite jump scare of any movie is the remake for The Ring, when the bitch opens the door and the girl's head rolls like that and has that face. I remember going to the movies when I was a kid, or I don't know how old I was when The Ring came out, and seeing this, and it freaked me out to this day that it just sends shivers down my spine. What is your favorite jump scare? Please let me know down in the comments down below. And to wrap this whole video up, I want to do something a little bit different, and I'm going to try and start doing this at the end of all of my favorite videos. Pretty much I'm going to have a mission each month, and this is a mission that I want you guys to take on. This month I have watched some classic movies that I didn't really think that I paid attention to the first time round, or maybe I was too young to understand. As you guys know, I watched Silence of the Lambs and I watched American Psycho, and my mission for you guys is to check out one of the classic movies, classic thrillers, classic horrors, classic of any genre actually. And if you felt like you watched it once before but you didn't give it all of the attention it deserved, give it a watch again, and make sure you watch it alone in the dark with your full focus on that movie, and let me know if you change your mind. You might be surprised. Thank you guys so much for your support as always on my recent reviews. Thumbs up. Thank you so much for all your feedback on the Real Faces of Horror. I love how much you guys are loving that series, so thumbs up all around. I hope you guys are having a great day once again, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.